Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Five Star Revolution podcast with your host, CJ Price. Thank you so much for joining us right here on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel right now, Five Star Revolution Podcast. Also, look us up on Facebook, Five Star Revolution Podcast. Like and share our page. So join us on Facebook. Tonight, we have a very special guest. His name is the Technical Alchemist, David Mercury. How you doing tonight, sir?
Greetings, and how are you, my friend CJ?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for joining me here tonight.
Not a problem. Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So, my first question for you is: were you a fan growing up of the professional wrestling business? And if so, who were your favorites growing up?
Ooh, yes, yes, I was. Became a real big fan back when my family relocated to Tampa, Florida, back in 1986. Some of the wrestlers that growing up that I, kind of took to and really started to like were Macho Man Randy Savage, Razor Ramon, a little bit of The Undertaker. You could sprinkle a little bit of Hulk Hogan in there as well, but definitely a lot of the top and mid card talent for WWE, WWF back in the day, which were some of the ones that I flocked to as I got a little older and made my way into the teens. Is when I then discovered WCW, started watching ECW, and from there on out, of course, my taste in wrestlers started to change. Guys from WCW, I kind of started to fall in like Eddie Guerrero. I was a little more fans of the heels towards that time in the late '90s. Big fan of William Regal. And moving into the ECW, I liked Taz. I liked Shane Douglas. Definitely was torn between the guilty as charged pay-per-view when Shane Douglas took on Taz, but in the end, ultimately, I took a little bit more towards Taz. But yeah, I had quite a few array of guys that I liked from the late '80s rolling into the early '90s, but can't specifically put my top tier on anybody because all of them had their own unique abilities that connected with the crowd and connected with me personally in different ways.
Those are a lot of great names that you just mentioned. I also followed the Attitude Era as a 90s kid because I was born in the 90s and I followed WWF throughout my whole childhood. Didn't get into WCW until the NWO stage, and
Mhm.
ECW didn't really follow it because I don't think I had that channel at the time.
Neither did I. I actually would go to my friend's house during the weekends and we'll let the parents know, yeah, we're hanging out so we can get up early. But once his parents fell asleep, we waited till about 2:30, 3 o'clock when it will pop on the TV and we would sit there quietly in his room watching some ECW and seeing all that crazy stuff.
So, talking about being a fan, do you remember your first ever live event as a fan, and what were your first impressions?
Oh, great question. Great question. So, back when we relocated back in 1986 into Florida, my dad wasn't really able to get us out to check it out to some of the scenes until it was, I want to say 90, 91, 92. But got the opportunity. My dad was got gifted a pack of tickets to go check out WCW at the old Bayfront Center in Florida, here in Tampa, Florida, which is no longer around. The Bayfront Center then was destroyed, and they now put up Tropicana Field. So you know the area where it was at. But he got gifted these tickets, and we got the opportunity to go see this WCW event. And at first, uh, this was my first live event, so I was excited, but at the same time, my mother, being a religious lady, she really wasn't about pro wrestling. So I remember her telling me, like, hey, this stuff can be really impressionable. I hope you don't fall suit and start liking it and everything. But go and enjoy this event with your dad. And I'm, trying to be happy with my mom. I'm like, I'll be a good kid. And yeah, got the opportunity that live event, and then I was just, I was stuck. I was like, you know what, this is really cool. These guys are larger than life, and I really started to take more into wrestling after that first event.
So you said that you were at the event around 91, 92. Guys like Vader, Sting, before he was Black and White Sting, um, guys like Stunning Steve Austin were there, right?
Correct. Van Hammer, the Barbarian, Ming Haku, those guys were all there, and seeing those guys larger than life, and me being a small kid and really taking to my dad. My dad was a larger than life character, and to see him meet these guys, and then seeing these even other larger guys, and it's like, oh man, there's my dad, there's these guys, because part of the experience that we were able to partake with getting those tickets, were able to meet some of these guys. So being there with my dad, and every kid's impressionable with their dad, and their dads are always larger than life. But to see my dad face to face with these guys, all I'm thinking to myself is there a possibility for me to be able to do this same thing? So yeah, definitely left a lasting impression.
So would you say that live event put a scene in your head like, wow, I want to be able to do this someday?
Uh, a little. Really, I do like to tell this story. What the nail in the coffin was, shortly after that event, about a year later, actually about 2.5 years later, at my elementary school, I ran into a kid. You're not thinking much of it. You're in elementary school, 5th grade. You meet kids all day long, and one of the kids that went to my school back in the day was the son of a wrestler. And at first, when he's telling me these stories, I'm like, you're just, you're pulling my tail. But no, actually, the son that I met was the son of the late great Frenchie Martin, aka Jean Gagne. His son, Jean Gagne Jr., was in my class, and hanging out with him, and me just being like, you know what, you're joking, man. But then one day I got invited over to the house, and lo and behold, I got to see the evidence. It's clear as day. There's pictures all over. Us wrestlers, we always put pictures of everything, some of the experience and memories that we have, and I was able to get firsthand the experiences and the memories that his father shared with me, and shared with us. So hands down, once I met him, and him and I became great friends, still currently talk to this day. Even he knew this was me. Like I was going to be this wrestler after meeting his family and meeting all the great guys that came through his household, and just pretty much solidifying that this was going to be my journey. This is what I was going to do.
So let's fast forward to the beginning stages of your career. How did you find out about the wrestling school in your area, and who was your trainer at the time?
Ooh, okay. So being from the area of Tampa that I'm from, a lot of wrestlers are in this area. I didn't really get to know the proverbial underbelly of the wrestling scene, which we all know as is the independent wrestling scene. I didn't really get introduced till my first to second year in high school. In the area that I grew up in, my mom, she used to work at the local convenience store where quite a few different wrestlers will go and shop. At the time, my mom met a wrestler that was very big over here in the Florida area by the name of Tony Marino. He also went as the Italian Stallion and also known as the Batman, Tony Marino. He was the first one to give me the opportunity, or at least the first advice, which was, if you want to be a wrestler, join your high school wrestling team. Once you complete that, come back and talk to me. Okay, so I ended up doing that for almost 5 years, actually about 5 years. I took the extended high school program. Due to some life changes, I ended up staying an extra year, but it wasn't a problem to me because I got to wrestle a whole extra year. But shortly after working and doing stuff with amateur wrestling, Tony Marino started to show me, some of the ins and outs of wrestling, and was at least able to make it known so I wouldn't hurt anybody. After that, I got an opportunity to make my debut for a small, it's a Carney style show, to be able to perform at. And lo and behold, I was able to run into a guy by the name of Steve Madison, big name here in Florida, well-accomplished wrestler, has been able to do stuff all over the world. He met me, we kind of clicked together, and he asked me where was I training at the time. And I told him I was working under Tony Marino, and he was like, "Oh, Tony knows my trainer, Steve Kern," and he introduced me to Steve Kern in the School of Hard Knocks back in '02, late '01, early '02, and from there on out, that's where my education became full force, was being able to work under and study under Steve Kern in the School of Hard Knocks. At the time, he also had the late, great Jimmy Del Rey, also known as Jimmy Backlund, one half of the original Heavenly Bodies, who used to be tagged with Tom Pritchard. And those two guys, I would say, hold a very special place in my heart for helping crafting me into the in-ring competitor and character that is being seen today.
So it sounds like you went through a lot of steps to get to where you are today. Am I right?
Yes. Yes. Actually, I feel like I went through a couple of extra steps than the normal person, just because of, chances of meeting and people that I was able to meet in my journey in life that played a heavy part of influence in me and where I'm going today.
So let's talk about your character now. For those people that are listening that don't know who you are, who is the Technical Alchemist David Mercury? I would love to know what the character's about.
Okay, well, there are different terms when you read the definition of an alchemist. Some people like to link it with, cosplay, D&D, type of World of Warcraft person that can take something and turn it into gold. That's not my person's forth, so to speak. My character, and the second definition of an alchemist, is a person who studies a certain subject to its rawest form. Everybody for the longest has always known me to be a technical wrestler. I've always been very to the books, always study. So when I finally decided, and this wasn't actually until a little bit later in my career in wrestling. Actually, I was trying to find a way to reinvent myself, and when I met my wife, she was the one who kind of helped me craft and kind of helped me start to make a gimmick. And she was the one who kind of gave the agreement of like, you know what? Look at what you've done. You've made a name for yourself being a technical wrestler. you studied it to its rawest form. Why don't you be an alchemist? And better yet, why don't you be known as the technical alchemist? And I like the ring to it. And for the longest time, at least in the state of Florida, no one has been labeled with such a good gimmick. I mean, the last scientific wrestler, at least that I was aware of at the time, was kind of Adam Bomb, the late WWF wrestler who, Don. I'm not manipulating anything nuclear. I'm manipulating my opponents physically. And there isn't anybody else doing that. So instead of calling myself the, because, if you just name yourself the, there's more than one. But when I dropped the Technical Alchemist, I felt like that was a stamp that there was nothing else other than me being and portraying the Technical Alchemist. And through the help of some of my friends and influences, I decided to really embellish and really take hold of the gimmick. And that's where I started to don the goggles and don the lab coat and the gloves, because frankly, being the only type of person that that is portraying this gimmick, I felt like I had to portray it to the fullest.
And I love that out of you, man. The way that you just explain yourself out of your gimmick is 100%, because I've seen your work and you work it very well, man. So that's very good explanation
Thank
right there.
you.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
So this is the portion of the podcast where I ask the wrestler, I'm gonna put you on the spot right now, to cut a promo for me for like 30 seconds in character if you can.
30 seconds and you want to pro. Greetings, CJ. So you represent the 5-Star Podcast, and you brought on no one else but the Technical Alchemist, David Mercury. You see, you reached out and wanted to bring upon something unique, something organic. And there's nothing more organic than the Technical Alchemist. You see, my powers really lie through my guidance and influence. And even though you have not seen such a unique character on television, whether it's AEW, NXT, WWE, one thing is for sure, my influence has spread like a cancer through all 3 top promotions. And it's only a matter of time. Yet, it's not even a matter of time. I feel it's only soon enough, whether it's 2022 or nothing else. You will see that my influence will span across the history of professional wrestling. Thank you for your time.
That was very good, man. That was very good. No problem. So you got the character down. You got the mic skills down. I'm assuming by the way you just cut that promo, you're a heel. Am I right?
I feel like what has happened, at least here in the state of Florida, because I have a reputation and a long definition of what I've created when it's come to my character. Originally, it was heel, but people have taken to it because it's something unique. It's something that they haven't seen before. I mean, it's often duplicated, but it's never the original. You got your Amazon, which is me, and you got a lot of people out there that are just the Wish.
So, what do you like doing better, babyface or heel, and why?
It's not, for me. It's not a baby face or a heel. For me, it's the entertainment as a whole. I've been doing this for a long time, and being able to just be out there, having that privilege to be out there and to entertain, no matter what form of the technical alchemist is requested at that time, regardless of what it is. I love just just being out there and having that opportunity to entertain.
So pretty much you can do both. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that is it. That's how I was brought up into this business, is to make yourself valuable on all aspects. You can't just come into this industry, and especially too when you're looking for work. I mean, if you're going and applying at Best Buy, when they have a position of a floor salesman or a register guy, you can't look at them and say, you know what, I can only do stock. I can't do anything else. Well, you know what? If you do that in life and if you do that in your real job, you're not really going to get anywhere because you're limiting yourself. But if you're able to take any aspect of what your job entails and take it to the fullest, you make yourself more valuable.
I 100% agree with you right there, man. So let's talk about the training school that you're a trainer at. I know that you
Ah,
train with Konnor from the Ascension and Jay Lethal. How'd you end up being a trainer there and getting their trust to be a trainer with them and training the wrestlers?
so first and foremost, that falls in because of Jay Lethal. I'm internally grateful to Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal is not just a great colleague, but over the past 5 years has become a very good friend. And I personally was just kind of returning onto the scene. I was a little stagnant. I kind of took a little time off to focus on myself personally. And it was like if the stars aligned. Um, he had just recently got the opportunity to run a facility and start training people, which was literally and still currently a stone throw away from where I live. And when I got the opportunity to go over there and train, I was doing it personally. I was trying to get myself better, and it was only a short matter of time before Jay Lethal, started asking questions, how long I've been in the business, who I've trained under. And then he hit me with the proposition and asked me if I would be willing to assist him. And that's what it was. I was his assistant in helping him run, which then was known as the Lethal Academy. And I was the assistant coach. And as we started to work together, things started to grow, and we were able to move out of our small facility and into a bigger facility. And with that, started to bring more students. And from there, Jay then looked towards me and was like, you're no longer an assistant when it comes to all of this. He's like, you're as valuable as me. You are a full-headed coach. Like, he's like, you've put in this work. So from there, while we were running the Lethal Academy, we then, I went from becoming an assistant to becoming a head coach. And we started picking up a lot of steam, so much steam that it started to get more on both of us. We were like, this is becoming a lot. Like, we're here training 12 to 14 students per class. And during that time, Ryan, who's someone that I've known for quite some time, he was actually a South Florida wrestler. And when I was traveling through Florida in the beginning of my career, he was someone that I shared multiple locker rooms with. And when he started showing up to our school, because we do host open ring where guys who are already trained can come in and hone their craft and chisel and make it nice and shiny for when they present it to the crowd. And Ryan started to show up. So when he showed up and I started listening to him and seeing where his head was at, I decided to talk with Jay and ask Jay, I think it would be beneficial for us. And not only that, but Jay Lethal has already had a long-standing relationship with Konnor's wife, Kristen, who is a former champion in her own right and has completed a lot of stuff in her career as well. So it was a fit. I mean, Ryan was right in the neighborhood. He has the heart and the passion alongside with Jay and myself that we want to help. We want to help guide and advise the next generation of guys that are, and girls that are stepping through the door that want to pursue their passion and take their chance at a career in professional wrestling. And once we brought Ryan on, that's when the name changed. It was no longer the Lethal Academy. It was a collective of brains and knowledge and wealth in this industry. Over 60 years when you really add all three of us together. And that knowledge gave birth to the Wrestling Lab. And that's what us three now currently work with and are currently training the next generation here in the Tri-County area of the Tampa Bay area.
Man, that sounds like a blessing. That sounds great.
Yes.
And very humbling. I bet you are very, very happy with the way you're running the wrestling school right now. Sounds like a good place to be right now.
It truly is, man. We work hard with each and every one of our students. It's not a factory that just you come in, you pay your money, we give you the rub, and we send you about your way. No, we actually take pride in the people that come in that have the desire, that have the passion, the true passion that they want to pursue this. We give our attention to every one of these guys. Jay Lethal, he's accomplished. Ryan, he's accomplished. These are two guys that, in their own right are now having the world as their oyster with what they do. And then you have me who's coming in and who is already an imprint on the Florida wrestling scene, but who is still in the game, who is still active. I'm going on next week. Actually, this Sunday will be my 20th year in professional wrestling. I've done this for 2 decades, and to be able to share this platform with these two other individuals that have been in the game just as long, and they're sharing their love and their passion alongside me to make this next generation great. You can't. It's a fairy tale. You don't even believe it when I told you. But
hey, man, I can feel the passion through the screen right now. So
that's what's up.
20 years in the business is a great accolade. So congratulations, man.
Yes, and I'll tell you what. I'm not a 20-year vet who's only wrestled 12 times a year. Okay, I've already hit the 800 mark of matches under my belt. Like, this is something that I take seriously alongside my coaches. And when I mean by my, is because I love them like brothers. That's why I say my coaches, because you know what? As much as I'm a coach, I'm still a student, and those guys help me just as much as I'm sure I still help them. You can't get anything better than that when it comes to pursuing education in an industry, for sure.
Absolutely, man. It sounds like you're in good hands. So a couple more questions for me, Mr. Mercury. What can we expect out of you in the next 3 years? What's in the future for David Mercury?
3 years. 3 years is a little far to project. In this day and age, tomorrow isn't promised to anybody. So I look for the next physical year. And for the next physical year, I'm still at a good, healthy, I'm in good shape. I'm healthy. I feel like this year will be another good year of being able to compete. I do have a couple of desires, so to speak, before I decide to hang it up. I would like to do a little bit more international work. So this year, that's what I'm going to kind of turn my attention to. So that way I can broaden my horizons and actually get a little more cultured in our industry, because what we do here in America isn't necessarily what we do as professional wrestlers in the UK, or what we do in Mexico or in Canada or in Japan. Those are accolades, and those are experiences that I personally would like to make before I decide to close the book on my in-ring competition and focus on bettering the next generation and offering my knowledge and education.
Sounds good, man. And I look forward to what you got going on in the future. So my last question is, what does keep you motivated to keep going? What wakes you up in the morning and say, "Oh man, I've been doing this for 20 years. How can I keep doing this?"
Man, I feel like that's a really good question. I feel like not necessarily myself anymore. What keeps me going are my students, really. I remember when I was in school, and I just shared this information with a close friend of mine recently who was feeling down on himself. And I shared with him, I said, sometimes it's not good to look down on yourself, because you never know who's looking up to you. And I started to realize that more than ever, because, yes, I am a coach, and so is Jay, and so is Ryan, but we're still active competitors, and we still go and accept bookings, and we still go and do shows. But it's different now. It's not just for us, and for us to go out there and to entertain the crowd and to get the proverbial payday. It's a lot now what our students look up to. They see what we do. They see that we still perform at a top level, and that we still hold the business as a whole in very high regard and to push it forward. So I'm not personally speaking on Ryan Ryan O'Connor and Jay Lethal's behalf, but I know on my behalf that the students that I have that listen and dedicate their passion to listening my knowledge and my education, I don't want to look like someone that just feeds the wrong information or the wrong, education. No, if I'm going to show you something or I'm going to teach you something, it's something that I do myself, and that I still currently do it. And I still currently do it well, because if I can't, then I feel like I shouldn't be educating you or should be telling you that if I can't do it myself. So that's what keeps me going.
So basically, sounds to me like you want to be a role model for the students at your wrestling school.
The next generation, correct. Not just for the fans, but for the next group of competitors that are stepping foot in that ring.
And I love that mindset, man. So keep that up. And thank you so much for joining us here on the 5-Star Revolution podcast. I really appreciate it. Do you have any social media that you want to plug before I let you go?
Well, if you can, I do have my social media on Twitter, which is the Alchemist DM, or you can also follow me on Facebook or Instagram as the Technical Alchemist. And then also, too, I've been plugging and putting, to try to educate and and to entertain people. I also do have a YouTube channel where I feature my promos and I feature my matches that go with those promos, which you can find me at the Technical Alchemist David Mercury. And other than that, check out the Wrestling Lab for anybody that is looking and searching for true education and the next step into professional wrestling. Please check out the Wrestling Lab.
There you go, folks. Check out the Wrestling Lab. Check out the David Mercury on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you have social media. Check them out. Thank you so much for joining us here on the 5-Star Revolution podcast. Join us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share all of our social media platforms. The Technical Alchemist, David Mercury. We wish you the best of luck in your career, sir. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you, and you, my friend, have a safe night.
Take care, brother.